The shuttle's emergency beacon pulsed weakly against the endless void, its signal fading with each passing minute. Inside, Commander Isolde Vaughn stared at the lifeless controls, her breath fogging the cracked visor of her helmet. The air recyclers had failed hours ago, and oxygen levels were critical. "Anything?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lieutenant Rickson Talavera didn't look up from the communications array. "Nothing. The Morkai must be jamming our signals." 3 days. Earlier, their diplomatic mission to negotiate peace with the Altarian Republic had been ambushed. Their escort ships, crewed by their Altarian allies, had been vaporized without warning. The Morkai hegemony, a species known for their silicon-based biology and ruthless expansion, had violated the neutral zone, attacking without provocation. Isolde and her team had barely escaped, their shuttle damaged beyond repair. Now they drifted in a debris field that had once been their friends. "Play it again," she ordered. Rickson hesitated, then activated the recorder. The final transmission from Admiral Pelthora, their Altarian liaison, filled the cabin. "Earth vessel, Harmony. We are under attack by Morkai warships. They've disabled our engines. We cannot—" Static crackled, followed by the Admiral's voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the Morkai broke the Treaty of Vega. Tell them. Our children are in the southern colonies. Please. If there's any mercy in your species—" The message ended with the sound of tearing metal. Isolde closed her eyes. The Altarians had been humanity's first allies among the stars, their gentle, crystalline forms and mathematical consciousness, offering Earth technologies beyond imagination. In return, humanity had promised protection, a promise they had failed to keep. "They have families," Dr. Marav Kaney muttered from her corner of the shuttle. The xenobiologist had been silent for hours, her dark eyes fixed on the samples she'd collected from their Altarian friends. The Morkai knew exactly what they were doing. They targeted the reproductive chambers first. Science Officer Pembroke, adjusting his breathing apparatus, the scar across his face tightening as he spoke. "The hegemony's been planning this for years. They've always viewed the Altarian-human alliance as a threat. Outside their viewport, the remains of the Altarian vessels glittered like stars, crystalline fragments containing genetic material that would never grow into consciousness. The shuttle's proximity alert suddenly blared. A massive shadow eclipsed. "The light from the nearest star. Morkai Dreadnought," Rickson announced, his voice hollow. "They're scanning us." Isolde straightened in her chair, ignoring the shooting pain in her side where shrapnel had pierced her suit. "Send the emergency package, full encryption. Make sure it gets through." "But the jamming." "Use the quantum entanglement device. The one the Altarians gave us." Understanding dawned on Rickson's face. The device was meant for scientific research, but its principles allowed for instantaneous communication across any distance, bypassing conventional jamming. As Rickson worked, Isolde activated her personal recorder. "This is Commander Isolde Vaughn of Earth Diplomatic Vessel Harmony. The Morkai hegemony has committed unprovoked genocide against our Altarian allies in direct violation of the Treaty of Vega. All Altarian diplomatic and military escorts have been destroyed." She paused, swallowing hard. "I am invoking Emergency Protocol Terminus. Authorization. Vaughn Epsilon 7903. She nodded to Rickson, who connected her recorder to the quantum device. The message would reach Earth instantaneously, regardless of distance. As the transmission completed, the Morkai vessel fired up its tractor beam. "What's Protocol Terminus?" Dr. Kane asked, fear evident in her voice. Isolde's expression hardened as the shuttle began to shake. "Something the Morkai are about to wish we never created." The tractor beam locked on, pulling them toward the waiting hangar of the Morkai Dreadnought. Admiral Varex of the Morkai hegemony studied the captured humans with detached curiosity. They were confined behind energy barriers in his ship's laboratory, their fragile forms barely worth the oxygen they consumed. Yet they had caused him considerable trouble. "You transmitted something before we captured you," he stated, his silicon-based skin refracting light in cold blue patterns. "What was it?" Commander Isolde Vaughn remained silent, her eyes fixed on a point beyond his shoulder. The other humans followed her example. Varex clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Your silence is meaningless. The Altarians are gone. Your shuttle was the last piece of the operation, and now we have you. Whatever message you sent will change nothing." "You violated every treaty in known space," Rickson finally spoke up. "You've committed genocide against a peaceful species." The Admiral's crystalline eyes narrowed. "The Altarians were never peaceful. Their technological advancements threatened Morkai supremacy, and their alliance with your primitive species was unexpected. A mistake we've now corrected." Dr. Caney clenched her fists. "They were scholars, philosophers. They were evolving weapons that could target silicon-based life," Varex interrupted. "We discovered their research facilities. We know what they planned for the Morkai." Isolde finally met his gaze. "That's a lie." Varex approached the barrier, lowering his voice. "What do you know of species that existed before yours crawled from the oceans? The Altarians and Morkai have been engaged in a war spanning millions of years. Your kind are merely the latest pawns." In the corner of the laboratory, Science Officer Pembroke studied the Morkai technology with careful attention. Something about their system seemed familiar. Too familiar. "You stole Altarian technology," he observed quietly. "Your propulsion systems, your energy barriers, they're modified Altarian designs." Varex turned sharply. "We improved upon inferior concepts." "You couldn't develop your own," Pembroke pressed. "Because silicon-based intelligence evolves differently. You can't innovate. You can only adapt what others create." The Admiral's skin darkened with rage, blue patterns turning violet. "Enough! You will tell us what you transmitted and to whom. Then you will provide all data on Earth's defenses and Altarian outposts." He gestured to his second-in-command, Commander Zorix, who activated a neural disruptor aimed at Merav Caney. The xenobiologist collapsed, her body convulsing. "Stop!" Isolde shouted. Varex raised a hand, and Zorix deactivated the device. 4. Each question you refuse to answer, your companions will suffer. Silicon-based life may be incompatible with yours, Commander, but we understand pain exceptionally well. As the interrogation continued, deep in the bowels of the Morkai ship, a different drama unfolded. The quantum signal Isolde had sent wasn't merely a message. It contained Altarian encryption that was slowly infiltrating the Dreadnought's systems. Unknown to the Morkai, every word spoken in the laboratory was being recorded and transmitted back to Earth. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Dizel approached Varex with urgent news. "Admiral, our long-range sensors have detected multiple warp signatures approaching from Earth space." Varex dismissed the concern. "Earth has no vessels capable of reaching us this quickly." "These aren't conventional warp signatures," Dizel insisted. "They're using something new." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Varex's crystalline features. "Show me." In the laboratory, Isolde caught Rickson's eye and nodded imperceptibly. Protocol Terminus had been activated. Now they just needed to survive what came next. General Faridun Nazari stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing Commander Vaughn's final message. The council chamber had fallen, silent, the 17 representatives from Earth's unified nations frozen in horror. "The Altarian genocide has been confirmed by multiple sources," Nazari announced. The quantum transmission included precise coordinates of the attack and verified Morkai aggression. Counselor Orla Nwadibia raised her voice. "The Altarians were our first and closest allies in the galaxy. They shared their knowledge freely. asked only for friendship in return. And we promised them protection, added Counselor Varys. A promise we failed to keep. Nazari's expression hardened. Protocol Terminus was designed for exactly this scenario. Commander Vaughn's authorization has been verified. The holographic display shifted to show a massive hangar deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. Within it stood 12 sleek vessels, unlike any conventional spacecraft. They were Earth's most closely guarded secret, weapons platforms developed in collaboration with Altarian engineers, designed for one purpose. The Retribution fleet has already launched, Nazari continued. They'll reach the Morkai dreadnought within the hour. Counselor Joe leaned forward. The Morkai believe we're defenseless because we've never revealed our military capabilities. They think we're centuries behind them technologically. A misconception we carefully cultivated, Nazari confirmed. With Altarian assistance, we've developed technologies the Morkai cannot counter. Our vessels utilize quantum displacement drives. They don't travel through space. They simply cease to exist at one point and reappear at another. The council chamber doors opened, and a tall figure entered. Ambassador Luminar, one of the few Altarians stationed on Earth, glided forward. Their crystalline form refracted light in complex patterns expressing deep grief. "The colony ships?" they asked, their voice resonating like wind through crystal. Nazari nodded. "Already underway. Your southern colonies will be evacuated before the Morkai can reach them." Ambassador Luminar's form dimmed with sorrow. "And what? Of vengeance? What of justice for our dead?" "That," said Nazari grimly, "is what Protocol Terminus ensures." Aboard the lead ship of Earth's Retribution fleet, Captain Elnora Keita reviewed final preparations. Her vessel, the EDS Nemesis, carried weaponry derived from Altarian theoretical physics, technology that had never been deployed in actual combat. "All systems operational," reported her XO, Commander Jacoby. "Quantum displacement drive functioning at optimal capacity. Weapons platforms primed." Keita addressed her crew over the ship-wide comm. "What we do today will echo through the history of two civilizations. The Morkai believe they've eliminated our friends and that we are too weak to respond. They're about to learn how catastrophically they've miscalculated." The 12 ships of the Retribution fleet disappeared from Earth orbit in unison, leaving no energy signature, no distortion in space, simply there one moment and gone the next. They reappeared simultaneously, surrounding the massive Morkai dreadnought from all vectors. The element of surprise was total. Aboard the dreadnought, Admiral Varys was still interrogating his human prisoners when alarms blared throughout the ship. "What is happening?" he demanded. Lieutenant Commander Dizal's voice came through, panic evident. "Multiple vessels have appeared around us. They're not registering on our sensors correctly. They're just there." Isolde Vaughn smiled through split lips, blood trickling down her chin. "That would be Protocol Terminus, Admiral. Earth's guarantee that no one who harms our allies lives to savor their victory." Before Varys could respond, the laboratory view screen activated automatically, showing Captain Keita's face. "Morkai vessel. This is Captain Elnora Keita of the Earth defense ship Nemesis. We have detected Altarian genetic material in your debris field and confirmed your act of genocide. By authority of the Earth-Altair Mutual Defense Treaty, you are condemned." Varys recovered quickly. "Your primitive vessels pose no threat to a Morkai dreadnought. Withdraw now, or be destroyed like your Altarian friends." Keita's expression remained unchanged. "Admiral Varys, we have already disabled your weapons systems and propulsion. The choice before you is simple. Surrender Commander Vaughn and her team unharmed, or witness firsthand what happens to those who murder our allies." The Morkai dreadnought shuddered as invisible forces gripped its hull. On the bridge, Admiral Varys watched in disbelief as system after system went offline. The humans had somehow infiltrated their core programming, turning the ship's own defenses against them. Impossible, he hissed. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Captain. Keita's face remained on the view screen, her eyes cold and unforgiving. You have 60 seconds to release our people, Admiral. Varex's crystalline skin darkened with fury. Activate secondary defense grid. Launch all fighter squadrons. Commander Zorix complied, but nothing happened. The systems aren't responding. Something is blocking our commands at the quantum level. In the laboratory, Isolde and her team felt the ship's artificial gravity fluctuate. The energy barriers containing them flickered briefly. What's happening? Dr. Caney whispered. Isolde's eyes gleamed. The package I transmitted wasn't just a message. It contained Altarian encryption protocols designed to target Morkai systems. Rixon's expression shifted from confusion to understanding. You knew the Morkai had stolen Altarian technology. The Altarians suspected it for years, she confirmed. They built backdoors into everything, just in case. When I sent that quantum transmission, I activated those backdoors. The laboratory door slid open unexpectedly. 2 Morkai guards entered, weapons raised. The Admiral demands your presence on the bridge, one stated flatly. As they were escorted through the massive dreadnought, Isolde observed the chaos unfolding around them. Morkai crew members frantically worked at malfunctioning terminals, while emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on their silicon-based forms. On the bridge, Admiral Varex stood rigid before the view screen where Captain Keita waited patiently. Your time is up, Admiral, she announced. What is your decision? Varex gestured sharply as Isolde and her team were brought forward. Here are your precious humans. Now call off your attack. Commander Vaughn, Keita acknowledged. Are you and your team able to evacuate? Isolde straightened despite her injuries. We are, Captain. Stand by for extraction. Varex stepped forward. You have your people. Now disengage your weapons. Keita's expression remained unmoved. Admiral Varex of the Morkai hegemony, you misunderstand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. Protocol Terminus is not merely a rescue operation. A shimmer of light enveloped Isolde and her team. Quantum teleportation, another technology the Morkai had believed beyond human capability. As they began to dematerialize, Isolde locked eyes with Varex one final time. You should have learned more about us before you murdered our friends. Humans don't forgive genocide. In an instant, they vanished from the bridge. Aboard the Nemesis, Isolde and her team materialized in the medical bay where doctors immediately rushed to their aid. Welcome aboard, Commander, Captain Keita greeted them, having left the bridge to meet them personally. The Altarian ambassador insisted on being here. From the shadows stepped a crystalline form, Ambassador Luminar's offspring, Stellaris. Their light patterns expressed profound grief tinged with determination. You witnessed their final moments, Stellaris said, their voice like crystal chimes. You heard Admiral Pelthora's last words. Isolde nodded solemnly. They asked us to save the southern colonies. Already underway, Keita confirmed. But now we have a decision to make. She turned to a nearby view screen showing the surrounded Morkai dreadnought. Protocol Terminus authorizes complete retaliation. The question is what form that takes. Science Officer Pembroke spoke up, his voice weak from the interrogation. The Morkai are a hive-mind species. This ship contains only a fraction of their consciousness. A fact we've accounted for, Keita replied grimly. The Retribution Fleet carries a quantum virus developed from Altarian theoretical models. Once deployed, it will propagate through the Morkai quantum communication network to every ship, every colony, every outpost. Isolde's eyes widened. Total extinction? Stellaris's crystalline form dimmed. Justice for genocide can only be measured in equal terms. The silence in the Nemesis's war room was profound. Around the oval table sat Earth's highest-ranking officers, alongside Altarian representatives, their crystalline forms casting prismatic patterns across the bulkheads. Isolde, freshly treated for her injuries, studied the holographic display of the surrounded Morkai dreadnought. The quantum virus? It would eliminate their entire species? Captain Keita nodded grimly. The Morkai share a distributed consciousness. Their individual bodies are merely vessels for a collective intelligence. The virus would sever those connections. Permanently. Genocide in response to genocide, Lieutenant Rickson murmured. Ambassador Stellaris's form pulsed with complex emotions. My species faces extinction because of their actions. The southern colonies contain less than 1% of our total population. Everyone else was in the diplomatic fleet they destroyed. Dr. Caney, the xenobiologist, leaned forward. But does meeting extinction with extinction make us any better than them? The room fell silent again. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. Admiral Harlow, commander of the Retribution Fleet, spoke carefully. Protocol Terminus was designed as the ultimate deterrent. No species would dare attack Earth's allies if they knew complete annihilation would follow. But we never thought we'd actually use it, Isolde countered. It was meant to prevent this situation, not resolve it. Science Officer Pembroke, still recovering from Morkai neural disruption, cleared his throat. There may be another option. During our captivity, I observed their systems. The Morkai didn't just steal Altarian technology. They're fundamentally dependent on it. Their entire civilization is built upon adapted Altarian innovations. Stellaris's crystalline form brightened with understanding. You suggest technological regression rather than extinction. Pembroke nodded. The quantum virus could be modified to target their technological infrastructure instead of their consciousness, return them to a pre-spacefaring state. Cripple, not kill, Admiral Harlow summarized. On the main view screen, Admiral Varex appeared, his silicon features rigid with fury. Earth vessels, you commit an act of war against the Morkai hegemony. Our fleet has been notified and is en route to this position. Captain Keita approached the screen. Your fleet won't arrive in time, Admiral. And when they do, they'll find nothing but debris, unless you give us what we want. What could humans possibly demand? The truth, Isolde said, stepping into view. Why did you attack the Altarians? What were you afraid of? Varex's crystalline eyes flashed. Afraid? The Morkai fear nothing. We simply eliminate threats before they materialize. Then you admit the Altarians weren't actually developing weapons, Isolde pressed. You attacked them preemptively. A moment of silence followed before Varex responded. They were developing something worse, a consciousness transfer mechanism that would have rendered us obsolete. Silicon-based life would have been replaced by their crystal technologies. Evolution demands the strongest survive. Ambassador Stellaris moved forward, their crystalline form gleaming with indignation. The project you speak of was designed to save your species, not destroy it. Our scientists discovered your silicon structures are deteriorating at the quantum level. Within 3 generations, your entire species would face neural collapse. Varex's expression shifted slightly, the first hint of uncertainty. You didn't even ask, Stellaris continued. You assumed the worst and acted on fear. In the tense silence that followed, Isolde exchanged glances with Captain Keita and Admiral Harlow. A decision was taking shape, one that would define humanity's role in the galactic community. Admiral Varex, Keita finally said, you have a choice. Surrender your fleet and submit to judgment before an interspecies tribunal or face the consequences of Protocol Terminus. You bluff, Varex sneered. Humans lack the resolve for wholesale extinction. Isolde stepped forward. Perhaps, but we don't need to exterminate you to ensure justice. We only need to ensure you can never threaten another species again. With a nod from Admiral Harlow, the 12 ships of the Retribution Fleet activated. Their primary weapon systems, devices that manipulated quantum fields in ways the Morkai had never encountered. Last chance, Admiral, Keita warned. the modified quantum virus deployed silently, invisible to conventional sensors. It spread through the Morkai dreadnought systems before propagating across their quantum communication network. Throughout Morkai space, ships suddenly lost power, colonies went dark, and the vast hive-mind consciousness fragmented into isolated pockets. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Isolde watched the holographic display as Morkai systems collapsed across known space. "It's done," Admiral Harlow confirmed. "Their technological capabilities have been reduced to pre-industrial levels. Their weapons, their ships, everything built on stolen Altarian technology. Gone." Captain Keita studied the readings. "And their consciousness? Intact but isolated," Science Officer Pembroke explained. "They'll survive as individuals rather than a collective. They can rebuild, but it will take them centuries." Ambassador Stellaris approached the viewport, crystalline form refracting starlight. "My species stands on the brink of extinction. We have lost our homeworld, our greatest minds, our history." Isolde joined them. "But not your future. The southern colonies are safe." "A few thousand individuals," Stellaris said softly. "From billions." The silence that followed was interrupted by Dr. Kane. "Ambassador, during our captivity, I managed to retrieve something." From her pocket, she produced a small crystalline fragment. "This contains genetic material from the destroyed fleet." Stellaris's form brightened dramatically. "The collective memory." "I don't understand," Isolde said. "Altarians store our collective knowledge in our crystalline structures," Stellaris explained. "Even fragments contain vast libraries of information and genetic templates. With this, we can restore much of what was lost." Dr. Kane smiled. "I thought it might be important." The Morkai didn't recognize its significance. As the Retribution fleet prepared to escort the Morkai dreadnought to Earth for the survivors to stand trial, Isolde found herself on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Lieutenant Rickson joined her. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "About sparing them?" "No." She sighed. "But I wonder if we've made the right choice for the future. We've shown the galaxy that humanity will go to extraordinary lengths to protect its allies. But we also showed restraint," Rickson countered. "We could have wiped them out completely, and in doing so, become what we despise." Isolde turned as Captain Keita entered. "Commander Vaughn, we've received a transmission from Earth. The Defense Council has reviewed your actions and approved the modifications to Protocol Terminus. They're calling it the Vaughn Doctrine now. Maximum response without extinction." Isolde shook her head. "I don't need my name on it." "Too late," Keita said, with a slight smile. "History has already been written. Humanity's first interstellar crisis resulted not in genocide, but justice. Your decision changed how we'll be perceived by other species for generations." 3 months later, on a terraformed moon orbiting Jupiter, Isolde stood before a memorial, Crystal Garden. Each formation represented an Altarian lost in the massacre. At the center stood a living crystal structure housing the recovered genetic templates, the beginning of the Altarian Renaissance. Admiral Harlow approached, his uniform immaculate for the ceremony. "The first new Altarian consciousnesses have awakened. They carry the memories of those lost." "And the Morkai?" Isolde asked. "Rebuilding, slowly." The tribunal sentenced their leadership to permanent neural isolation. The rest have been contained within their home system, with monitoring stations ensuring they never again develop weapons of mass destruction. Ambassador Stellaris joined them, their crystalline form now housing genetic material from dozens of lost Altarians, preserving their memories and knowledge. "Your species surprised us, Commander Vaughn," they said. "When we first encountered humans, we saw potential for great violence. Instead, you showed great wisdom. We almost chose extinction," Isolde reminded them. "But you didn't." Stellaris countered. "And that distinction defines you." As the ceremony began, representatives from 12 spacefaring species gathered to witness the activation of the Great Memory, a massive crystalline structure containing the collective knowledge and genetic heritage of the Altarian civilization. It would serve as both memorial and rebirth. From the ashes of near extinction, two civilizations had found a new path forward. The Altarians would rebuild with humanity's protection, and humanity had established its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Isolde watched as the first light of the Great Memory pulsed across the crystal garden, each formation illuminating in sequence. Among the stars, a message was spreading. Those who threatened Earth's allies would find no victory, only justice, and those who sought friendship would discover the full measure of humanity's dedication. In the end, the Morkai had taught the galaxy an unintended lesson. Earth's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology, but its capacity to balance retribution with mercy, to guarantee that enemies would never savor victory without descending into the darkness themselves. The light of the Great Memory reached its zenith, bathing the assembled species in prismatic brilliance. A new dawn for interstellar cooperation, written in crystal and starlight.